All right, continuing where I left off with the odds and ends of Kings and Kaisers. First things first, though, I realized I forgot to show off one of my German A7V molds in my hurry to get through all the powers. I skipped over Germany's tanks. This is the German A7V, the mobile barn covered in machine guns, pretty much, in one cannon. I do think this tank is very, very interesting. It had a crew of like 16 people, just covered in machine guns. Very strange design and by comparison to today's standards. Germany's first tank. I got a bunch of these made, probably way too many, but I did paint this HPG piece, and if you're curious, the color is Tamiya German Gray. It's pretty much a perfect match with the out-of-box pieces. So, yep, that's my German A7V. And then going on from there to the odds and ends of the that we have here. I actually have 3 sets of chips. Even though I have 2 sets of 1914 pieces, I have actually 3 sets of 1914 chips because too much is never enough, and I found somebody on eBay who was selling the 3rd set of just the chips. So I snatched those up because I like excessive amounts of things. Then we have the, ones, fives for the Allies and Central Powers respectively. We have HBG field. These are all HBG markers, and this represents our field technology. So you have improved naval mines. We have minefields, poison gas, machine guns, trench works, barbed wire. You can optionally not use the barbed wire, but figure I might as well implement that too. You could probably play with just the trench works if you wanted to, but doing trench works and barbed wire, they go together. And then we have military bases and naval bases, or sorry, not naval bases, naval ports. So naval bases are what is printed on the map. Naval ports you can build and destroy. Then we have my flight stands, both the short and taller flight stands. And then we have my ace flight stands. So this is another rule. Again, you don't necessarily have to play with it, but it is for us. A fighter, if it's a maximum of 1 fighter that survives a dogfight, gets upgraded to a flying ace, or an ace fighter rather. So they receive this, and that means that they attack and defend at a 3 rather than a 2. Then we have our strict neutral, or not strict, just neutral. There's no strict neutral rules in this game. We got our neutral infantry, our neutral artillery, and in here we have a little bit of an odds and ends of things, mostly markers for the board. But I have standard mines. All these territories, like this one for example, start off with the standard naval mines, right? So that's a marker for that, and then you can upgrade it to that. And then we have a few geographical things. Like I have a few markers for straits, canals, because the only canal in the original game is the Suez. So we reintegrated the Danish Straits, Turkish Straits, Gibraltar, Strait of Gibraltar rule, as well as the Panama Canal, which is under the box there, but Panama Canal was actually built during the beginning of the war, so that's fun. Let's see, so that goes in there. And then I have a die. If someone's indecisive, yes, no, so you go for it. I have that. I keep that in here. Turn tracker die. Kings and Kaisers is designed as a 10-round game, but I'm not opposed to playing to 12 rounds, depending on what's going on and stuff. So anyway, 10-round game is the intention. You could play to a 12-round game if you want. And then in here we keep, or I keep, 5 neutral cavalry. 5 is all you'll need. Unfortunately, HBG seems to not be in stock of these, and I have no idea when they'll restock them. So you might have to paint them if you don't have any white ones if you want these, but there you go. And then I have a few anarchy roundels that I throw in here too. And the reason I have these anarchy roundels, again, HBG, reason I have those is because there is a rule with fighting in contested territories that are neutrals. So if theoretically, say, Persia, there's fighting in Persia and it begins contested, right? And then attacker attacks a defender and they wipe each other out, technically nobody controls the territory. Now an upside down marker means the territory is contested. Doesn't mean that it's up for grabs, but with a neutral, if that happens, if everybody wipes each other out, then I like to throw an anarchy roundel down, because anarchy doesn't really mean anything, and this is up for grabs and anybody can just take it. So I have 5, which I think is all you need, but HBG sells these in 10s. I can't imagine that more than 1 or 2 of these would be used at a time. I gave Madman the other 5, but we'll see how many of those actually get used. But just in case, we got them, you know. And then I have 2 variations of Submerged Markers. These are from Combat Miniatures. There we go. And this is kind of cool because the actual sub gets submerged in them. And then here's the more standard HBG ones. And then of course we have the damaged markers for the dreadnoughts. No carriers in this game to worry about, so just all dreadnoughts. That's the only capital ship here. So that about does it for this box. And then over here we have the dice. I'll actually back up to one thing in a bit, but we have our dice. 1, 2, 3, 4 poison gas, and then these are my convoy markers, just to store them in there. But if you haven't seen them before, I throw them down here. Convoy is disrupted, flip it over. Convoy is undisrupted, flip it back over. It just lives in that territory, or sea zone rather. But yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the reason why black is 4 is because ace fighters, the ace fighter attacks and defends at a 3 if a fighter survives a dogfight. If fighters survive a dogfight, a maximum of 1 of them gets bumped up to an ace, so it attacks and defends at a 3, so that is color coordinated. And then of course the hero pieces, Snoopy and Red Baron that I mentioned earlier, they are represented with red, so they get red dice for 4s. 1s are white, and greens are 2s. And then these yellow dice tie into the poison gas technology. I will go into in detail over the field technology idea of ours in more detail at a later point. Now these markers here, you're wondering what these are. These are bingo chips, and this is what you use to keep track of your victory points. You throw them down there when you get one, etc. If you want to, because there's so many, you can also throw it down there to coordinate as well. So if essential powers come in here, take Verdun, throw that down there to signify that they have Verdun. You throw it down here as well. You can see them all together. Now, these gold ones here are Berlin, Vienna, London, and Paris, and those are such a big deal. Those are worth 2 points each. The rest of these are worth a point. And then we have minor cities. Minor cities are fun. They're all these white dots. They have no, they have a historical reasoning, historical representation. Like say Basra here, there was a port there, and there was conflict there. If you have 3 minor cities, say, hypothetically, I'm not reading what those are, I'm just throwing them down, but hypothetically, if you have 3 minor cities, you get the 3 minor cities victory point. If you have 5, you get another point. If you have 7, you get another point. And again, that's by the end of the game, you know. So that's that. And then all these other victory cities, all the other victory cities are 1 point. And then there are things like, here, I printed this out earlier today. There are things like favorable trade, control the most mainland European territories adjacent to sea zones 18 through 21. So whoever controls the most mainland territories here, along here, they control favorable trade. Western Front, this does need to be updated, but it says Western Front, most territorial control of the following: Belgium. That's supposed to be Westphalia, but we updated that to Rhine Province. So Belgium, Rhine Province, Alsace, Lorraine, Burgundy, and Picardy. So whoever has the most control of these territories gets that Western Front point. The Mediterranean control 3 out of 4 naval bases. We got the out-of-box naval bases in Provence now, Rome, Dalmatia, and Marmara, or Lazio actually. And then we got, the Suez Canal. If you control Egypt and Palestine, you have the point. Middle East oil, control Caucasus, Persia, Mesopotamia, and Arabia. That is another point. So over here, Caucasus, Mesopotamia, Persia, and what was the other one? And Arabia. Yeah, so if you get this, bam, 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 bam. That's a point if you control all that. Pacific colonies control the most original Pacific territories in the Pacific. Sea zones 47, starting here to the edge of the Pacific. That's over there, pretty much. So we don't consider that we consider this the Indian Ocean. We consider this Pacific Ocean. So this is where it starts. Going back up from 47 onward is the Pacific. All this is the Indian Ocean. And what else? Black Sea, control of Marmara, Crimea, and no enemy sea units in. So if you control Marmara, if you control Crimea, and there's no enemy sea units here, that is a point. Russian Revolution and China. Well, first off, I'm probably bouncing a little bit around this, but China, control of the most Chinese territories. So whichever faction of China or the Allies or whoever controls the most Chinese territories gets, by the end of the game, they get that point. And then the Russian Revolution, if the Central Powers ignite it, then the Central Powers get the point. If the Allied powers prevent it, then they get the point. There's no undoing. Once the Central Powers get once the Russian Revolution happens, they get the point. There's nothing the Allies can do to take it away. They just have to prevent it. Then that leads to the Fate of Russia point. So similar to the China rule, the most of the two Russian factions, if the Central Powers agree to the armistice, the Soviets and the White Russians, they start fighting each other, and by the end of it, by the end of the game, whoever controls the most amount of territories, whichever faction, wins. Okay, and the Allies can intervene because the Soviets are considered at war with the Allies too, but it's a big thing. And then we have the Empire point. So if Germany and Austria-Hungary or Britain and France are at 85 IPCs or higher on the tracker, then they get the point, the Empire point. So they can theoretically both the Allies and the Central Powers can get the Empire point. Okay, so that more or less covers this, how this works. And again, all the points are represented with different little images, which is pretty cool, and the cities get stars. And then we have the minor cities represented there. So pretty cool. Just gonna go over this a little bit. Yeah, so pretty nice. Madman did a real cool job with this. Okay, and the final component that we'll be using is this prototype card deck. The original 1914 does not have national objectives. Lying in the Trenches made some national objectives, and some of them were kind of an influence, but for the most part we made a lot of these national objectives from scratch after doing a lot of research. So Austria-Hungary, if Austria-Hungary controls Serbia and Albania, 3 IPCs. If Central Powers control 4 of the following, Romania, Albania, Serbia, Greece, or Bulgaria, 5 IPCs. If Austria-Hungary controls or contests 3 of the following, Veneto, Poland, Romania, Crimea, or Western Ukraine, 5 IPCs. Russia, 2 IPCs if Serbia is not controlled by the Central Powers. 7 IPCs if the Allies control Marmara. 3 IPCs if there are no units of other Allied powers in Russian controlled or contested territories on or after round 5. 3 IPCs if the Russian Empire has completed the Trans-Siberian Railway and controls all territories containing it. 5 IPCs if the Russian Empire controls or contests 3 of the following, Poland, Prussia, East Prussia, Galicia, or Silesia? I think I'm saying that correctly. Germany, if no Allied warships are present in sea zones 20 and 21. 5 IPCs if the Central Powers have armistice with the Russian Empire. 2 IPCs per territory if Germany controls Belgium, Picardy, Brittany, Aquitaine, or Provence. Apologies if I'm not pronouncing all these 100%. The 3 IPCs of the Central Powers control 3 of the following: Poland, Lithuania, Belarus, Estonia, while at war with the Russian Empire. 1 IPC per original British or French territory in Africa. 5 IPCs if Germany controls at least 3 original territories in the Pacific. Sea zones 47 to 75 on or after round 5. So Japan should not dawdle, and they want to try to prevent that. Germany, let's see, 5 IPCs per territory if Germany controls Ile-de-France, which is where Paris is, or London. France, 2 IPCs per original German territory that France controls in Europe. 5 IPCs per territory if France controls Brandenburg, where Berlin is, or Austria, where Vienna is. And then 5 IPCs if the Allied powers control Lorraine and Belgium and the Netherlands is not controlled by the Central Powers. British Empire, 3 IPCs if there are no African territories controlled by the Central Powers. 3 IPCs if there are no Central Powers warships in the Mediterranean Sea, sea zones 27 to 32. 5 IPCs if the British Empire controls Egypt, Palestine, Hejaz, and Arabia. 3 IPCs if there are no Central Powers warships in the Atlantic Ocean. Japan, 2 IPCs if there are no Central Powers warships in the Pacific Ocean. Then 1 IPC per original Central Power territory in the Pacific Ocean. Ottoman Empire, 2 IPCs if there are no Allied sea units in the Black Sea. 2 IPCs if the Ottoman Empire controls Palestine and Hejaz on or after round 5. 5 IPCs if the Ottoman Empire controls Palestine and Egypt. 2 IPCs per territory if the Ottoman Empire controls Caucasus, Crimea, or Romania. 2 IPCs if the Central Powers control Greece and Bulgaria. 2 IPCs for Italy if they control Tyrol, Dalmatia, or Albania. 2 IPCs if there are no enemy warships in the Mediterranean. And 1 IPC per original German or pro-Ottoman territory that Italy controls in Africa. And then 2 IPCs per original Central Power territory controlled or contested by the Allied powers that contains American units for the U.S. 3 IPCs if there are no Central Powers warships present in the Atlantic Ocean. And then last but not least, for the Soviets, if they come in play, they get 1 IPC right now, and that is 5 IPCs per territory if the Soviet Republic controls Ingria or Central Russia, which is where the major production centers were. So, without that, pretty much does it. That is Kings and Kaisers right now. I got to get packing for my trip, but this is what we will be playing with when I get back next week, and looking forward to doing it. So until then, again, I'm doing a rematch after our last play test against Madman. So hopefully I can roll the dice better. He wants to play the Central Powers again, and we'll get to it and let us know what you think when the time comes. So until then, hopefully I can roll the dice better. As always, we'll see. Take it easy, YouTube.